Good evening, campers, streamers, and babysitters, and welcome to our raw reaction review for Wake Up. Yeah, this was something, funny enough, we had an opportunity to see this earlier last year at one of the festivals. I think actually two of them. This was something that we probably most definitely would have watched had we done proper research. Because, yeah, we did not realize that this is the same team behind a film that we got to talk about quite a bit last year. A lot of people were real happy when we discussed it. Summer of '84. Yes, we got two of the directors from that film there coming here doing this one. Again, kind of a different take, another different avenue. That's one thing about them that I really like is, they did Turbo Kid, then Summer of '84, and now this. Very different kinds of movies, but I don't know. I think still consistently pretty damn good, in my opinion. Luke, how you feeling?
I'm going to agree with that 100%. A little spoiler for maybe our final verdict. But, I always go into these films a little bit hesitant or a little nervous, more so than just going into a completely cold film, because I absolutely love Turbo Kid. I love Summer of '84. And, Wake Up was one of those films I didn't know anything about. And I was just hoping for the best. They have a perfect record in my book. So I was hoping they were going to keep that streak alive. And they really excel at these. I don't know if you want to call them like coming of age horror. I don't know. You look at Turbo Kid, you look at Summer of '84, and kind of Wake Up fits into that group as well, where you're kind of dealing with this younger age group and unique circumstance in all three different films. But, the base root is always a lot of horror, a lot of science fiction. And obviously, Wake Up is no different. So it had the makings of, okay, this is going to be a knockout of the park. And, not to spoil everything, but like you said, they didn't disappoint us.
No, not at all. I mean, let's just get into this, man, because Wake Up is certainly, if it's something that wasn't on your radar, it should be, because this movie was extremely well done. I gotta say, from not just the visual aspect of it, the fact that it is low budget, but it still just looks and feels as good as it does, but then the performances in this are top notch. There's one particular performance in here that I will be gushing about. But then overall, again, it's just this team. I don't know what it is about them. They have this sauce, this magic touch to some of these projects, man. Because like this again just feels fresh and fun and brutal and gory and just insane. And it's such an interesting concept that I've never seen before.
They have this particular flavor. Almost, we talk about the punk rock attitude, the DIY notion of, just getting these films out. And you see lower budgeted films, and yeah, they do feel lower budget, but these types of films, they never feel low budget. They feel so handled with care that you can stack these against a lot of the big theatrical pieces that we're going to see, with way bigger budgets. And Wake Up is one of those films where, even at the very start of this, you never really get an inkling that this is a very low budgeted film. It really does
Not
stand on
really.
its own. And they really do take advantage of it. They create this atmosphere, I guess. They almost have this blueprint, I think, for every film where I'm looking at the characters, and maybe it's not necessarily these performances that are going to completely wow you, but they have this unique ability to create these likable characters that is really the big foundation of these films, where you create these likable characters in these unique situations, and then you just put them in these elements that are like, wow, I can't believe we really got so much mileage out of it. And looking at Wake Up, where it's just, setting the table here, it's just kind of some activists that go into this. I don't know if it's a knockoff IKEA is probably what we can
Kinda,
maybe
yeah. It's like a
maybe
high-end furniture place.
where we can equate it to. And all hell breaks loose in there. And I was curious when we got into the film of how much mileage can we really get out of this. It doesn't have that unique setting of Turbo Kid or the 80s gimmick of Summer of '84. This was just kind of something that was out there, and I was like, how much mileage, how interesting can this be? But once we get into probably that 30-minute mark, I think, and really where we pull that trigger of what exactly we're going to be looking at for the remainder of the film, my gosh, do they deliver one gut punch after another gut punch. And it really just keeps you guessing, because you realize everything is on the table.
Yeah, I think for me, the moment that this film, when I knew that I was completely locked in, sucked in, and that this was something special, was when we got the introduction of Kevin, played by just this. I've never seen him before. This actor, his name,
I
I'm
believe
gonna try my best to
I think
pronounce it.
it's Turlo Convery, I believe would be.
Yeah, Turlo Convery, I believe is how you would say that. But either way, this gentleman just absolutely captivated me. The second that he like came on screen, and you just kind of got the sense that there is something severely wrong with this character. Like something is disturbed, something is clearly not all connected, but it's not in this way of like a Leatherface or like something like that. It's like he's cunning, he's smart, it's like he completely thrives off of instinct. And to see a character like that, who you would think, yeah, they're a caveman, they're just going to be out in the forest, to see them play with that in like an IKEA, like you said, is just so interesting. And I think they do really get the most for it. I think that they really put this character in a lot of very interesting situations. There's a set piece towards the end of this movie, I'll just say, involving darkness, that was just so creative, was just so cool. I was so sucked in, and what they do with that exact setting and how they execute it, it's so unbelievably cool. I was blown away. And I will say there's a big piece to this that's pretty damn impressive. I spoke with the filmmakers earlier today before we shot this, and one of the things that they kind of brought up that I also like completely agree with is, and I'm curious if you will, Luke, is that this movie, it feels more like intense, gory, like just like over the top brutal than it actually is. And I think a lot of that just goes to the expert building of tension and the expert execution of just, we are using sound design, we're using all these things to our advantage to really deliver on these attacks. So they may not actually be the goriest thing, but they feel it.
I would absolutely agree with that. Reflecting on it, because it didn't really click in my brain until you were bringing it up there. But sometimes less is more, in really making things the focal point. There is some brutal kills in here. I'm not going to make light of that at all.
No.
But the real centerpiece here is how much they linger on it and how kind of a prominence they put on it. I'll say the character of Kevin, man, what a presence he has on screen. There are not many films that'll actually where there's an actor on screen that'll terrify me, but I actively know my heart was racing when he was doing certain things in this film, from one sequence to the next. He just has this presence about him when he's just stalking and almost just standing there. Just from a look standpoint, he could just have a look on his face that terrifies me. And I think when we get into the more gory aspects here, this isn't like an overabundance of gore where they're just hammering buckets of blood at you, but when they use it, they make it feel special. They make it, notable that this is a absolutely brutal kill. And as you're watching it, you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they're actually going this route with it, because I did have that moment a few times. And there are things in here where, there are big centerpieces in terms of what they're setting up and how they achieve it. But then there are just some kills that are just more visceral. They're really brutal. They're really in your face, and they're pretty basic. But the way that they shoot it, the way that they build that tension during those sequences makes it feel so much more prominent than, where you look at like Terrifier and you're getting sliced completely in half. You're not getting that here, but just on a smaller scale, how brutal some of these things can be that are, when you reflect on it and you see a lot of the gory horror where it's just kind of more basic stuff, but the way that it's presented to you makes it feel way more brutal than actually what they're showing on screen.
Yeah, and I will say that there's a couple things without spoiling it. The very first kill in this film is that for me. It's insanely just shocking, and your mouth will drop a little bit with just how well it's all teed up. And then there's another one. How do I even say this so you'll even know what I'm saying? But like it involves a character on the ground, and there's a little bit of a snap crackle pop, we'll say.
Yes,
that happens.
Yep. That was in my head when I was
damn effective. Like, it's so good. It's simple, but it's like, good God, that was brutal as hell.
And
Like,
it's like, and when they move away from it, and when you realize everything is on the table, and you're trying
yeah,
to adjust to be like, "Oh my gosh, that just happened," and you're moving on to the next sequence that is absolutely tension filled. It's like you never have a moment to catch your breath with this film. They really make use of the situation that they're in. And when I had said at the beginning of the review that it was like I didn't know how much mileage they were going to get out of this, they empty the tank. It's like one of those things where they go from one scene to the next and it feels different. It never feels redundant. I thought maybe we're in an enclosed space here that it could just feel like so repetitive and we're not getting enough of a variation of kills or anything like that. But it really does feel like the filmmakers took each different kill and were like, okay, we're gonna make this separate. We want to make that the audience feel something different every time we go into this. And I'll say from my experience, I absolutely got that.
this video is sponsored by our good friends over at Abracadabra NYC, your one-stop shop for all your horror needs and necessities. By following our link in the description, you can see all that they have to offer, from horror collectibles, costumes, accessories, magic masks, and so much more. And if you find yourself in the New York area, please stop by their physical location. They have 3 floors of everything you see in the store and a unique, memorable experience to go along with it. So whether you're looking for something creepy, cutesy, or just super cool, they've got you covered at Abracadabra NYC. 100%. Yeah, I mean, this was a movie, man, that just like it has the same flavors of like The Guest or Your Next, kind of those like almost not Stranger Things, but like those films that came out that really harken back to like Carpenter 80s, kind of like just 80s thriller action serial killer kind of films. It's really quite a good mix. It's a balance, and I think like they've just found a way to do that. They did it really perfectly. I honestly think like they did the Stranger Things model in summer of '84 better than Stranger Things did. And like that's huge marks for that film, and I think they were able to achieve that again here. And what I find very impressive is that they're not the writers of these movies. They're finding these scripts, they're finding these stories, and they're bringing that voice to it, and it's consistency without redundancy. And I think that's extremely rare, and I feel like they are just somebody who, I think if you're not already a fan of these filmmakers, if you haven't seen the other films, do yourself a favor when this thing comes out this weekend. I believe it's hitting VOD and theaters. Go ahead and just marathon Turbo Kid, Summer of '84, and Wake Up. And I guarantee you will have 3 films that are just, again, consistent but unique and just not redundant. And I think you'll have a really, really great weekend on your hands.
Oh my gosh, it's perfect viewing. You're not going to be disappointed if you watch all 3 of these films. They all have, you mentioned Summer of '84 did the Stranger Things better than Stranger Things, and I think they present this subtleness in their terms of their storytelling where it never feels like hyper '80s or in your face. They really make use of the actual. I can't even call them gimmicks because it may be a selling point for the film, but they make use of it. It feels natural. It never feels like it's such a stretch, and we just use this to get you in the butts and the seats, as they say. I really feel like there's a story to be told here, and it is phenomenal for them to not be writing these films and just kind of bringing them to screen, because sometimes something gets lost there if you're not the writer and director. And I think they're able to find this perfect marriage of we understand what the story is here. We know how to bring it to the audience, because Wake Up is no different than something like Turbo Kid or Summer of '84. It just has this uniqueness to it. It has a very different flavor from those other 2 films, but also a very enjoyable viewing. I'll say, looking at this one, it took me a minute to get engaged into it, but once I finally, we hit a point, and I'm not going to say what that point is, but it gets your heart racing. It gets pretty wild from there. I was fully engaged, and I think overall this film, while not perfect, it comes very close. I got to say this is a strong recommend for me.
Yeah, I'm going to follow up with also a strong recommend. I think the only thing I could see being a drawback for some folks, and it really purely just comes down to preference. I found the characters, the teenage characters, to be, somewhat just. It's one of those things when you get a group of teenagers, even though I like these writers and these filmmakers, I it's one of those I always kind of shake my head nowadays at first when you're kind of just getting that group dynamic started, because they do things where it's like, yeah, they have to kind of hit the tropes a little bit, but they do a really great job here of quickly subverting it and then continuing to, again, evolve those relationships so they don't feel generic or boring. They're actually very interesting and consistent as the story goes on, and that's pretty rare today. I would say for films, again, that are kind of harkening back to that 80s style that everybody seems to want to replicate, especially when it comes to horror, they seem to have a really good eye for putting actors together who just feel like they could be kind of a group of friends or people who know other people, and they're kind of just getting them together, a loose group. And I appreciate that. I know it's just kind of a little odd detail, but it is something I thought they did well, but I could see kind of turning people off at first. But overall, yeah, high recommend for me here. I think Wake Up is certainly something you should go out and see. Again, this will be in select theaters and on VOD here on this weekend, starting on Friday. So certainly go check it out. Let us know if you guys like this as much as we did. Maybe we're a little too high on it. I don't know, but I certainly think this is one that you should not miss. So, yeah. But other than that, guys, got a lot of great stuff up on the channel. Lots of fun videos coming your way. I know we're losing a little bit of a list video this week. I'm just going to say it here now because, I don't know. I'm waiting for an ad to be approved on that, a sponsor. Hopefully it'll be Monday. But it's a big one. It's going to be fun. It's going to be good. And yeah, I think that'll be something to look forward to. But we'll have this and another review coming up for you guys this weekend nonetheless. So till next time, I'm Dylan Newell.
And I'm Luke Janesco.
And remember, stay scared.
Do the horse shit, gonna do it live. Cause Splattercast kick it every day they live. Splattercast, gonna smash your ass. 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 Splattercast, gonna smash your ass.